The galaxy is burning. Brother fights brother, and treason splits the Imperium of man. This is the Age of Darkness. Welcome to the Remembrancers retreat, coming to you from within the depths of the Vengeful Spirit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Remembrancers Retreat, a Warhammer 30k Horus Heresy podcast. Unofficial, I should say it's unofficial. My name is...
It's true.
In case anyone had any questions.
Yeah, anybody had any thoughts, GW would never allow me to say fuck as many times as I has on this podcast.
But here in America, we like our rights.
My rights.
Drop the F-bomb whenever we feel like it. Anyway, regardless, it's been a while, guys. Been 4 or 5 weeks.
Caro has been doing her book club, and it's been going great. Mm-hmm. Talking about Legion, which is one of my... I feel like one of the unsung heroes of the Horus Heresy, like books, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's been so long now since it came out, and like everybody's like, oh, everybody knows Alfarius and Omegon are two different prime. No, we didn't. It blew my mind.
Not back then. But yeah, so that final episode will be posted after this episode. But I was like, it's time to just get back together, talk a little bit. And Austin was like, yeah. Stephen was like, yeah. Everybody was like, yeah. And then here we are.
Everyone else failed you.
And bailed.
Please direct your Patreon directly to me.
But no. You know, things are just crazy these days. But
yep.
We're here. We're going to talk Titanicus. We'll talk terrain. Mm-hmm. And it's been slow on the heresy news front. It's the middle of August right now. It's on the back end of the middle of August right now. Yeah. And the last thing we heard was, the
Oopsie Daisy Praetor.
Yeah, the Sons of Horus Praetor.
Yep.
And just looking at Warhammer community and just looking at the dates they've been posting Horus Heresy stuff, by the time this releases, they'll probably already have just released a new model. So
hopefully we'll be very excited for it. Hopefully they'll spill the beans on that delightful photo that was around the internet a couple months ago. Yeah, photos that now everyone is trying to pretend never happened. We remember.
So, but besides that, Titanicus, I think it was earlier this week, came out with...
Today. As of recording, today.
Today.
Yeah.
That was 2 days ago. Today's the 18th.
Was it?
Wait, this came out 2 days ago, Austin.
Time is an illusion. I thought it was today.
You're sitting in my house right now thinking that this came out today. We talked about this 2 days ago. It's wild. Anyway.
It's been a rough pandemic, bro.
Warmaster Iconoclast Titan.
Of course, you could have just gone with it because nobody would have known we recorded this.
I know. And it threw me off. I was thinking, was it today? Have I been at work for 24 or 48 hours and not realized?
That is commitment to truth and journalism right there, ladies and gentlemen. Jesse Irvin, keep me on the straight and narrow. Yeah. And it's fucking wild. Mm-hmm. They've decided that, you know what? That Warmaster Titan, you know what it needs? To be able to punch people to death. And a giant chainsaw.
Needs more fist.
Yeah. You can't punch somebody with it. Is it really a Titan? As a Warhound player, I would say yes, but apparently they digress.
Mm-hmm. They had a fun little intro video, which was kind of cute. It felt a lot very more 40K than 30K, but they're having fun with it.
Yeah,
and honestly,
they're enjoying it. Yeah, I can't complain. You know, who knows? Maybe they're trying to set the stage for a little like orc action or something. I'm not going to complain. Yeah. But there is still plenty of heresy to go. Yeah. And that also makes me happy. So it's the Warmaster. It's got a giant fist. You can have it either as a siege drill or a giant grav weapon, the name of which eludes me.
That's siege drill or
Curious Grav Imploder is the other weapon that you can make the fist. And then, of course, there's the obligatory chainsaw that looks to be the size of a warhound. And this makes me very happy because in the last spoiler for Mortis spoiler. All right. So in the last Siege of Terra book, Mortis has like a maniple of these things hitting the wall.
Yeah.
And it didn't make a lot of sense how they were doing it. Because they're just like, oh, we're just going to run to the wall and fucking knock it over. And at the time, this big girl didn't have any close combat weapons. You're like, that's kind of dumb. You should really just stand just blast half a mile
afar.
away.
Yeah.
What's all that plasma doing? No, they were probably these.
Yeah.
Which
makes a lot more sense.
Yes, it does make a lot more sense. We don't have any of the stats for the weapons yet. That hasn't come out.
My guess is vicious.
Yes.
God, it's so beautiful.
Vicious and nasty, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I love everything about it. It also comes, if you're, for the keen-eyed observer, with a new carapace, like the top weapon.
Yep, got some Gatling.
A giant Gatling, which I love. Gatlings, I think, are probably my favorite shield-stripping weapon right now.
It almost looks like some mortars over there. Hang on, I know they called this out somewhere on the the article.
It's got mortars, which I think.
Let's see. Cruciator Gatling Array, which is the
shoulder-mounted apocalypse missiles, plasma blast guns, melt cannon, and more. So maybe they're part of the and more in that context.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm really interested in is that reactor card you can give a Warmaster Titan, because obviously the things are slow, right? They go like 6 inches max speed.
The shoulder or the armpit guns, it almost look like flamers, and it's really confusing me.
Those are flamers.
Yeah.
No, the other one had the capability to have shoulder nipple mounted flamers as well.
Okay, I don't own one, so I never really.
Yeah, it is very much a fuck you knight that got too close.
This thing, so aggressive looking.
Yeah, it's amazing looking. I don't know what the hell it's going to do, right? Because it's slow and it's armed with nothing but close combat weapons. But I'm hoping that reactor card, which right now does some fun stuff, but nothing crazy. I'm hoping that this one, instead of like giving it a bunch more shields or whatever to make it tankier to live to get to range, instead just makes it faster. Like, because every other one of these, that reactor's fueling a plasma gun that's the main gun on a Titan, or
cooling down stuff.
Just like, the super coolant or whatever. This thing doesn't need coolant. This thing doesn't need to generate, a city's worth of plasma energy to fire things.
It just needs speed.
It just needs speed and enough promethium to spin that giant chainsaw.
What's the movement on the normal Warmaster? I can't remember.
4 or 6.
Okay,
I think.
so similar to a
it's like a warlord speed, warlord maneuver. So like fine for a gun platform, but you're not you're not punching anybody to death if you're boosted speed 6. There are some Legios that can get you much, much faster for a turn or two.
A Storm can get you to up to 8 inches for the first 2 turns.
Yeah,
if
so
you boost.
you full stride and you go 16. That's not terrible.
No,
but
depending on where you put it.
Yeah, but I'd want to be fast all the time. Just because I'm like, it's a huge point sink.
Yeah.
Even if those weapons are massively discounted from the actual gun weapons. But God, it looks sexy. Put the fear of the God Emperor into somebody.
Arriving soon. And seeing as it's already built, painted up, they're just giving it the loadout. They got the artwork and everything. I can't imagine this not being a very long wait, or I can't imagine this being a long wait.
Yeah, no, I would guess that this is going to be with the Trader Legio's book, which should be a quarter, like sometime this year, right? Sometime this year it should drop.
Yeah.
Which has me very, very excited because I play a Trader Legio and it'll just be sexy.
Yeah, on the internet they mentioned that for the 40K roadmap that they put out, that there are no codexes coming out in October for 40K. So some people have speculated that could be another Sigmar release, could be Titanicus, or could be...
Do we have the Sigmar release yet?
Yeah, that came out in the summer a few months ago.
No, their release... their release windows?
Not a clue.
Because they do like to bounce back and forth. Although they've done, I feel like recently, less of like a month of this followed by a month of that. And it's been more like they just bounce back and forth weekly.
Yeah, I can't say I've really been paying too much attention.
And it's harder in the summer. It's like they were releasing the new Age of Sigmar edition, and now we've got like the new Kill Team, which has kind of thrown things out of kilter for like their standard releases.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Maybe that is, maybe it'll be Titanicus and Aeronautica.
Titanicus, Aeronautica. Yeah. Necromunda's probably due for something here soon too.
Yeah. Could just be a specialist gaming month.
Well, they just came out with the not the Van Sar, the
Delac, the new Delac.
Yeah, the Delacs. Yeah, the Dark City guys.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe it is a whole thing of specialist games. It will just be a renaissance to set everybody up for Christmas with Horus Heresy 2.0. Keep you warm at night.
I can live with that. Yep, August 21st, September 20. Why do I keep saying 21st? September, August 2021.
Yeah, bro, it's 2021. We're more than halfway done.
And yeah, October is noticeably blank for a 40K Codex. And I have no idea what the Sigmar roadmap looks like. So they probably don't have one because I feel like
nobody cares.
That's not true. Some good looking models in the Sigmarverse.
It's true. I did get that free Sigmarian they were handing out and immediately turned him into a Vampire Lord because it's just a cool model. I got another one just to have as like the model.
Yep. Speaking of other modeling, been up to anything recently as far as hobby?
Yeah. So I started doing some touch-up work on my Beastman Militia army, which has played all of one game because I started it in a pandemic. And I was like, oh, that'll be a great, like, when I'm on my 2 week on, 2 week off, I'll like paint this army up. And then everything will be better 6 months from now. And I'll be able to take it to Nova 2021.
Nah.
Yeah, that's been depressing. So moving on from that, we got a Necromunda campaign that's looking ready to start. So I've also been working on my Cawdor gang, which has been a lot of fun. Doing a sort of fisherman themed.
Okay. Fishers of Men.
Yeah, they're going to be Fishers of Men. It's the Cult of the Heron. So I took the not Beastgrave. Warcry. Yeah. I took the Corvus Cabal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just took those heads with the bird skeleton, like the bird skulls, and just slapped those onto Redemptionists and regular Cawdor gangers. And I don't think I did anything else really like heavily converted, except they all, how they all wear nooses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't like thrilled with that aesthetic. So
sure.
I cut off like I'm a bearded, balding white guy in the South. Like
just does not.
It's a bad look for me.
Yeah.
Like they're great models. Don't get me wrong. Paint them up the normal way. Great.
But you're sitting there like,
But I went to the West Point of the Confederacy. So like we can't, right?
Yeah.
We can't. But anyway, I saw those Corvus Cabal and I was like, Cult of the Heron would be cool. Like a gang of people from like some Cawdor clan that, some sump lake, and they just are skimming like the oil and chemicals off the top to sell. So they've got those masks.
Yeah, I think I saw some of the pictures you posted.
Yeah. And so I cut off the nooses and put fish hooks. So it looks like a fishing line. It's coming along pretty well. I'm
just going to pull it off and just take a swing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've painted a couple of test, what I'm going to use is Juves, which don't have the heron masks because there's only 9 of them and it's like $50 a box. But the full gangers have those masks, and I've just started painting like the first 3 of those. So only 5 more, and then all the bases, and then that by Sunday it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm experimenting with like water effects on the bases, so it's been cool. It's been a cool little project.
Very cool.
What have you been up to?
Slowly repainting some of my real old Dark Angel character models. Stuff that I had for years and years that it's like, time for a little touch up.
Yeah, like your Gen 1 paint jobs.
Yeah. Like my apothecaries and stuff. And also slowly working again on that Necromunda Horus Heresy, Knights Errant.
Oh, yeah.
Gang, so.
Yeah, you should get those ready for Kill Team.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah,
I should fit just fine.
Yeah, I know nothing about the rules, but they're all just regular Marines with pretty basic weapons, or weapons that could be pretty basic.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll fit.
They'll fit right in the 40K aesthetic.
Yeah. They're time traveling. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, Caro is working on her RTLW Angron, the Red Angel model.
Which is a beautiful model. Like, there are very few, like third-party sculpts. Like, there's beautiful third-party sculpts out there, but I think that may be the only one that I like better than its Forge World equivalent.
I think I agree with you on that one.
Like, at least, especially for the Primarchs. Like, I know hands down, the other Primarch stuff that's out there, like, it's not bad by any means.
Some of it feels almost a little
same.
Cartoonishly bulky for a lot of them.
But, I mean, that's just Angron, man. He's just big and angry. He's just going to be that way.
Yep. And at some point, I need to finish up my Goliath gang.
Play with us Sunday. Come play with us Sunday.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll show up. I got stuff on Saturday. I'm going up to Maryland for. Up in Maryland they have a small little Horus Heresy pickup game. just break the ice. Just one last time before we all go back on lockdown.
Yeah.
Thanks, Delta.
I've decided to give that a miss because of everything.
Yeah, teetering on the edge here, but I was like, well, I also playing Pack Mule for a few people who need to get stuff up to Maryland.
You're fully vaxxed anyway, and it's going to be, from what I hear, it's going to be like masks and everything, so it should be all right.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ.
At the same time.
Fucking Delta. Get vaccinated. If you're listening to this and haven't been vaccinated yet and aren't immunodeficient or currently undergoing cancer treatment.
Yeah. If you're physically able to.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Get it. Please just get it.
Yeah. We'll send you a sticker. And it'll say, finally, you fucking idiot.
I also built the box of grots that I picked up for no discernible reason when I was at the Warhammer store, because why not?
Grots are great.
Yeah, and I figure with the contrast method I have, it'll be just a fun little project to put together. So I did end up putting them together, and man, some of those kits really show their age. But
yeah, they're not the newest models.
But it's still a lot of fun.
But they got a lot of character. Like I love all the Gretchen Snotling models. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I still have somewhere the old metal Snotling that's just given the finger. Great.
I think Karen's got a box of the Gabapalooza somewhere. But unfortunately, I can't play all of those guys in Kill Team by himself, which is a shame.
Oh, you got to have an orc to go with them?
Well, I mean, they do come with the
runt herd?
Yeah, the runt herd. I don't know. I haven't looked at the actual anything.
Yeah, I mean,
all the screenshots or anything. I've kind of missed out on.
I've been like, oh, those new orcs look good. Oh, that deathcore looked good. I know nothing about the rules.
Did you pick up the box?
No.
Same here. I didn't. God knows I have barely enough time to play anything else. So
yeah, I've got too much terrain now, so I don't need the terrain.
Thank you, Nick Quanga, for
it's all in my house on one of my gaming tables,
partially built.
We did build a shit ton of it. Like a lot of it's built,
but there's a shit ton left.
So much left.
So,
but it's delightful. I have plans for it. Was thinking about a 30K event this fall, but apparently not.
Yeah. We can't get our shit together.
Really wish I was in New Zealand right now. But anyway.
And not just to play Warhammer.
Right? To visit all the Lord of the Rings places too.
Yeah. And just in general.
Yeah. Been watching a lot of Wellington Paranormal. It's delightful. But now we're just wildly off track. But yeah, okay. I have enough small projects that I felt like if I'm going to get into Kill Team, it'll be with the Death Watch that I have lying around. Sure. Or any of the other half dozen projects. Maybe one of my old 30K or Marine forces that never got off the ground because I'm too deeply in love with Space Wolves. Yeah. I'll wait for the box set for Kriegers.
Yeah.
I can wait.
Yeah.
To start a new militia army.
Yeah. I'm definitely not getting to a Krieg militia army, but I'll definitely pick up the book and the compendium and see where it goes from there. Mm-hmm. After a while, the shapes don't bother me anymore. It's like, okay. I got this.
I have a long tradition of learning like GW games without owning the rule book at all. I think it was, the only 40K rule book, and I've been playing since 3rd edition, the only 40K rule book I owned when the edition was active, because I did pick up the 4th edition one like 3 years ago, is the 8th edition core rule book. And I played one game of it. So I'm figuring that's bad luck.
Yeah. Was that the game that we all played at the Warhammer store on release day?
Yes.
I think so.
I may have played one other game. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like same thing with like 30K. Like I didn't get the Horus Heresy rules until recently.
So that being said, I got a confession to make. One of our buddies, Mike, came down to just roll some dice with me because I was like, I'm a little rusty. Before I go up to Maryland for this event, I want to, roll some dice. And we played a couple small games, and the Horus Heresy has really shown its age now. The rules, still fun. Boy, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff out there now.
Haven't memorized everything. Yeah,
it's like, there's a lot of quality of life updates that it can seriously use.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that in the new edition. I really am.
One of the biggest things that I'd forgotten, I never really thought about too much, but at the same time, really wish it has now. Being locked in combat.
Oh, you don't like that?
So I like what 9th edition has where you can choose to fall back. There's some, negatives for falling back, but being stuck when you got your last 2 units on the table and just some other stuff that can't do anything, and you're just sitting there rolling dice. It gets to a point where it's not quite fun anymore. I don't know what it is. I'd like it to be a
little snappier, a little bit
deadlier. Just a little deadlier would be fine, but maybe just a little bit more, dynamic. As shitty a word as I hate to use, but.
Well, unfortunately, Jesse, with the pictures of that new box set, you were probably about a year late with your suggestions to update.
Yeah. Maybe it'll come in an FAQ or something. But.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I do like that.
But it was weird. Like, I think I feel like I've finally come to the point where, I enjoy the setting. I enjoy the models. And I really don't give a shit what they do with the game at this point.
What a weird thing for a man who runs a 30K podcast. I'm looking forward to freshening up a bit. Yeah, as am I. Which is actually one of the reasons I'm a bit bummed to like miss this event, because I get a feeling like the way everything's going that this will probably be the last 30K event. Well, in this edition, like it very well could be. Like if there's a new edition, November, December timeframe, like. Are we running events in the next 2 months?
Well, you're more than welcome to bring 4,000 points of wolves, and we'll just
beat the shit out of each other.
Drink beer and beat the shit out of each other.
That I like. It'd be a fine send-off.
It would be. And maybe we'll finally get a battle report in one day.
God, right?
4 years, and I think Dave put out the one Titanicus battle report. On YouTube somewhere on that channel that I never touch because we don't do battle reports.
Nope, that's not our thing. What do you think? We are good at this game?
God, it would take like 10 times longer to edit. It's like, shit, I forgot this rule. Go back.
No. I'm
just
old
let it
school
ride.
anyway.
Let it ride.
I want a written battle report, damn it. Something I can have up in the office without headphones on so it looks like I'm working.
So you're volunteering is what you're saying?
Absolutely not.
Okay. But that being said, I think it's looking forward to a new edition. Whatever comes up, I'm really curious to see how I don't, on the one hand, I expect them to do some serious changes, but on the other, probably not so much.
Yeah.
Seeing as the old world is coming.
Right. And there's still a scatter die in that box set, which makes me very happy because that's one of the things that annoys me about and templates. I think there's still templates, which I like. Like for Titanicus, the templates don't feel like they're slowing down the game at all. Like everything, it just makes it more dynamic and interesting. Let me go with dynamic again. But there is
synergy.
There is something to be said when a quad mortar really isn't that nasty a weapon, but it's impolite to bring it just because a battery takes for fucking ever.
Yeah, I don't want to spend 5 minutes looking, engaging. Like you guys heard me talk about this before, the spicular rocket system on the whatever tank they call that thing. I forget what it's called. I don't own one. I love the rules, though, where you're not counting every single individual model under a unit or under the template.
If the unit is hit.
You just check the template. Does it cover it? Okay, you get this amount of hits. I'm down with that.
Yeah, and that I think that would be a nice way to like. Well, I mean that has its pros and cons, right? It does make it a lot easier. It does make you not want to spread your models out.
That's true. It would actually do the opposite.
You'd want to keep everything tight.
But now you get tight knit formations, which isn't the worst thing in the world either.
And I mean, honestly, like if this was like a realistic sci-fi setting, it'd be like, that's fucking dumb. But look on the cover of literally any book with a Space Marine on it. Are those Space Marines 2.5-inch coherency? No, they are not. They are shoulder to shoulder. So like, all right. And who knows? Maybe like,
I mean, then you could pull out the actual, like the movement trays and stuff.
God, I did that for a Imperial Guard army in 4th edition. It was great. Had the close order drill doctrine and just had my little movement trays so everybody'd be base to base. It was fantastic. But yeah, and who knows? Like maybe if they had like, most blasts work that way, but like, hey, a flamer template still hits every individual model it touches. So
and that's not as terrible.
No, that's a lot easier because there's no scattering involved.
And for some reason, the flame template is just a lot easier to read.
Because you just put it down however you want. But it is. People are on fire.
Light this way. Yeah, we good.
Yeah, but I'm very hopeful. Very hopeful with whatever this new edition has in store for us.
We're just like in a holding pattern at the moment. But what's not in a holding pattern?
What, Jesse?
We're going to talk about terrain. So let's talk about terrain.
That was a terrible segue. I thought you were going to go somewhere completely different. It's like, I don't know how he's going to bring this around to terrain, but let's see.
Nope,
the answer is
I'm just going to wedge it in there.
Awkward transition.
The square peg fits in the round hole. Let's go.
Here we go. Yeah. So we were kind of talking, prior to this about like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And like, as we mentioned, there's not been a whole lot of interesting news on the 30K front. I think everybody on Earth, that cares. So you, the listener, me, Jesse, and like 10 other people kind of holding our breath for whatever this new edition comes out. We realized I don't think we've ever really talked about terrain.
If we have, it's been a long time ago, and the quality was probably terrible, so you probably shut off that episode about 5 minutes in, because
I really hope you haven't listened to any of our first, 2 dozen episodes.
More like 50 or 60.
Let's not go that far. Back in the days where there were 12 of us, all on our mics at home, not these sexy ones that Jesse purchased with your lovely Patreon dollars, turning it back in.
You helped me help your ears.
Yeah, look at that. But yeah, so we wanted to talk about terrain and not so much the this is, gives you 5-up cover and this is how you should use 5-up cover. One, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably, are at least vaguely familiar with how the rules work.
That was another thing. Now that I remember playing with Mike, there's no real good reason, unless there's real nasty stuff on the board, there's no real good reason for Space Marines to ever be in cover.
No,
and we were playing a low point game where we didn't have a lot of nasty stuff, so we were just walking around, and this cool table that I put together really had no fucking effect on the game.
Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah. And that's another thing. 9th edition has a lot of terrain rules, but a lot of good stuff in there too. I like the idea of someone taking negatives to hit something because that target is behind cover. Yeah. It makes sense.
And that used to be a thing, right? That used to be a thing. I'm also not entirely opposed to the sort of rules where if you're in cover, you don't get any sort of invulnerable save, right? No cover save. It just improves your armor.
Right.
And then there are any given weapon, like in 8th and 9th edition, the bolter is -1 to your armor. Well, even if I'm in 2-up armor, there's still a reason for me to get in the forest because when that bolter comes, I'll still have a 2-up, and that'll be delightful. But what we wanted to talk about was sort of the more big picture terrain, like, hey, how much terrain do you really need on a board? Like, what kind of terrain should you be looking for? Right? Like, we're 18 months into this pandemic. We're heading back into, lockdown 2.0 here in America. And, some of you are like, hey, I'm vaccinated. My buddy's vaccinated. I still don't feel real comfortable going to the game store. F it. Now's the time to build my own terrain. Or like, hey, maybe you made a bunch of terrain during one of your previous lockdowns and now aren't quite sure what to do with it. Well, that's what we're talking about here today, ladies and gentlemen. So we were talking, and like the traditional terrain for 30K, right, is about 25% of the board, right, needs to be some sort of terrain. Anything less than that, and you might as well not have any, right? Like, I'm sure we've all been to like an event or a tournament, maybe not 30K, but like I've played in some 40K events where like, yeah, there's 60 people and that's great. But the EO only really thought 30 would show up. So the terrain is, shall we say, lacking.
It's a bit sparse.
I seem to remember there being some specific event overseas but we're not going to beat that dead horse, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. There's just not a lot of terrain.
We did that exactly last time you were here.
Damn it. I just can't
same London GT. I'm sorry, London GT.
Can't get it out of my head. Did I? I did, didn't I?
You did.
Jesus.
It was over a month ago, but yes, you did.
Well, I thought today was the same time as 2 days ago, so it all just blurs. So yeah, right. You want a good mix. So 25% of the board, some sort of terrain, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be line of sight blocking. Generally, I'm kind of, one quarter when that comes. Like, so a quarter of the board has terrain. Maybe a quarter of the terrain you pick is something like craters that doesn't really block line of sight for anybody. And then I kind of like bigger stuff, right? Your ruined buildings, your jungles, hills, impassable terrain, stuff like that, scattered hither and yon across the battlefield. But that's where it gets interesting, right? Because, of course, like, for the most part, especially, I feel like for 30K gamers, because we're a chiller crowd than most nerds, I feel. You just kind of set it up.
Unless we talk about edition changes.
Or friggin' Rogel Dorn. Like,
or Gilliman.
Or Gulliman Day. Yeah. Which it's not. It's coming up, though. Don't worry, Mac. We haven't forgotten. We'll have a special Gulliman Day edition. Shit, where was it? Oh yeah, deploying terrain, right? So generally you make it look cool, and that's fine and dandy, right? Or you have the like, hey, I've picked out all of this terrain, and then your opponent comes over and you try and figure out what the fuck to do with it, right? And that usually falls into two categories for pickup games. The first one, especially when it's like when I have somebody come over to my house to play, right? I generally have already set up the table.
Yeah.
And
as a good host.
Yeah, as a good host, right? You don't want to waste time setting up the table, really. So I set up the table, the opponent picks table half, right?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty fair way of doing it. There's also, it's more traditional for things like fantasy, where you'll generate your terrain or just like have the pile and you'll alternate putting stuff down.
Yeah.
Both of those are great, right? They get the job done. Mm-hmm. There is, however, a problem with both of them. The first one, the kind of gentlemanly, I set it up and my opponent picks, you kind of get in a rut, right? Like,
yeah,
like we game at Jesse's house. Mm-hmm. Jesse, and same for me, right? Most people have a table's worth of terrain.
Yeah.
And it'll get set up one of two ways, which really just depends on like, did I start setting this up on the left side of the table or the right side of the table?
Yep.
And that's the way the terrain just is, right? Mm-hmm. And you end up playing on the same one or two different tables constantly, even though you've got like 15 pieces of terrain. Mm-hmm. It could be wildly different each game. Never is. Or the, here's our 10 pieces of terrain. I'm going to put one, you put one, yada, yada, yada. And the problem with that is, what ends up happening, right? Oh, I've got this big 3-story building that I'm going to put in my back center, and that's where all my devastators are going to go. And, oh, well, I have a lot of Devastators. I've got, it's my turn. I'm going to pick this big piece of just rock face, impossible terrain, and I'm going to put it sideways up against the side of the board. So it affects nothing. Because fuck you. Right. I want my Devastators to shoot things. Right? That's what happens.
Yeah.
And that's...
when you play in that way, the terrain placement is part of the game itself, too.
Yeah. And I like the concept of that, right? I like... Because you should love your terrain.
Sure.
Right? And I know, most people... they're playing at a shop or whatever, so you're just using the terrain you got, because it's not like you're going to buy terrain for the shop, right? People do, and bless you guys that do, but
Battlegrounds is beautiful. They have
they got a ton of stuff.
all the terrain you can
All the
think of.
terrain you want.
Any design, it's great.
Yeah.
From city to forest.
We live in a mecca.
Yeah. Battlegrounds, Midlothian, Virginia. Check it out.
Hooray. And still, whenever we play there, you get the box of City Fight terrain and you put it out the same damn way.
Yeah.
You do.
Yep.
Everybody does. Or it's a nice mirrored deployment, right? That's the other one, right?
See,
I've placed this tower on the left-hand side in the corner 12 inches up. So on the opposite corner, I'll put the exact, a close piece of terrain, the exact position. Look at me, it's balanced.
So it was funny. On Sunday, Carol and I were planning, all right, we're going to play a game of Heresy. She had some errands to run and stuff. And so I set up the table and I started with a beautiful, I had a shit ton of terrain because I like my 30K games looking like Necromunda stuff. So I got this nice all set up and everything. Look at it, tweak it, and over the course of an hour and a half, it was like my Zen garden. I ended up making it into a fairly mirror-like
yeah,
map,
right.
just because
nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah,
right.
It's this looks cool, but if we roll off and I get this piece, now I'm going to feel like
exactly. Are you gonna roll off for deployment zone? Well, fuck. Then maybe I'm gonna get the good side.
Yeah.
Or last time Steven was over and we were playing Titanicus.
Yeah.
I built a beautiful table. But part of me was ooh, but he generally, when he comes over, he generally goes to that side. So it's just human nature. You got the seat you like.
And you're at the side you're and you're building based off of, and just subconsciously, you're just thinking.
So is this balanced?
Then you look around on the other side of the table, it's this doesn't.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like maybe it's at a disadvantage. And then it winds up being a mirror table.
Oh, right? The sad end of the story too was that she had to, she got called out, so she had to go on a trip. So I had to put away the entire table so we can have podcasts this week.
God damn, Jesse. That's sad. That makes me sad.
That's okay.
But anyway.
The train is not going anywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, this is something that's bugged me for years, literally years. Because there are some fun ways of doing it, like Battlefleet Gothic. Divides a 6x4 into 6 chunks.
Yeah.
And you roll for each chunk, and on a 4-up something's there, and then there's got a table you can roll on. And, I placed them on my side of the table, and you placed them on your side of the table.
Yeah. Now, that being said, with Battlefleet Gothic, there isn't as much, because it's not a 3D game by any stretch of imagination, so that terrain placement isn't quite as...
It's not as critical because... Either the whole table doesn't normally get used, I guess is the best way of describing it to people that don't really play.
There's a lot of real estate.
There's plenty of room to maneuver, but also once everything kind of collides, it tends to stay. So you might wind up fighting around one dust cloud or around a planet or something like that.
Objects in orbit tend to stay in orbit.
Yeah, right? It matters a lot for deployment, but after deployment, terrain and BFG, it's important, it's there. You're not running in and out of it like you are in 40K, 30K, Titanicus, that sort of stuff. And also, it doesn't use a lot of terrain, so there really wasn't anything to port there. The old 8th edition Fantasy had just a ridiculous way of doing it. It just had a massive chart, and you rolled D6 plus 4 pieces of terrain, and then you kind of divided those rolls in half between the players, and you rolled to see what random thing you got, and you deployed it on the table. So you could literally have like an altar of Cain, like altar to Khorne, and a Sigmarite temple within like on the same table. Like this is not a fucking like interfaith meeting.
This is not a utopia.
Yeah, like that's not how that works. So it got a little weird, and I wasn't like it was fine.
Yeah, but it didn't.
It's also
it kind of the quote unquote. My fingers are up. Immersion is taken away to some extent.
It fucks with the immersion a bit, and then it's back to that like, oh, I got an altar of Cain, and I'm playing you, the dark elf player.
Right.
That's going to go in the back corner where nobody cares.
Let's keep that away from you.
Yeah. So I didn't love any of it. And again, like it's fine. Like all of these ways of doing terrain make good games. I've been doing it for years. You've been doing it for years. Everybody does it. But eventually you just want something else. And I've finally discovered that something else, Jesse.
Pray tell.
I've discovered it. So this is, forgive me, it comes from historicals.
Okay. That's fine.
Weird 6mm historicals. And I know there's some people on there going, oh, fuck, he's talking about 6mm again. It's a good scale. Anyway.
Titanicus is just jumbo 6mm.
It's 6.125. Don't let anybody tell you it's 8.
Okay.
6.1.
We'll get on that discussion later.
We'll get on that. Yeah.
All right, anyway.
But anyway, it's a game called Age of Hannibal, right? And it's, Hannibal. It's Romans and Carthaginians.
Not the Silence of the Lambs.
Not Silence of the Lambs.
Not Red Dragon.
No, not any
We're
of that.
talking Rome.
Yeah, we're talking, yeah. Death and slaughter with swords the old-fashioned way. Swords that don't have motors in them. But it has an amazing way of doing terrain. So what you do is you have a terrain deck, right?
Okay.
So it comes with like a deck of cards, like 40 some cards.
All right.
And then what you do is so it comes with a deck of 50 cards, and you're supposed to cut it down to 42 based on like where you're playing.
Sure.
So if you're playing like a desert, take out all the rivers. If you're playing in so you can theme it a little bit, right?
So you basically build a terrain deck.
Yeah. So you build your terrain.
That's
You build your
kinda
terrain
neat.
deck,
Yeah.
right? So you theme it,
Yeah.
and then each player is dealt 9 cards randomly, right? And blind. Don't show your opponent. It's on a 6x4 table, right? So and they divide it into 1 foot grid, right? So there's 24 places, right? And then what you do is you take your cards and face down, you alternate placing them starting on your table edge, right?
Face down. Okay.
Face down. So I put a card here, and I don't know why I'm saying here like anybody, but you can see me. So you place a card down touching your board edge.
Yeah.
And then you can place up to 2 cards in a zone. It has to be your zone. Like you can't put one in where an opponent's put one. You can, or in a zone adjacent to where you've already put a card, including diagonally, right? So it's sort of to represent like your scouts that have scouted the battlefield and like your army's sort of pre-game maneuvering. And you alternate dropping cards until both players put the cards down, then you flip the cards over, and whoever put the card down places the terrain. Usually in that grid, there's a couple of things like there's a large hill that takes 2 blocks or whatever.
And how big is this grid again?
So it's 1 foot squares.
Okay.
So 4x6, it's 24. So up to 18 of those are full. But the thing is, not every card is a piece of terrain. Some of them are just like clear.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So the idea is you can put like, a nice hill on your back line. But you got to play all of them.
Oh, okay.
So if you've only drawn like marshes and swamps for some reason, guess what? There's going to be a marsh and swamp in your deployment zone.
Ah, okay.
And then you start building outward from there.
Gotcha. Okay, so you have the deck, and you get to see what your cards are.
Yeah, you see what your cards are.
Okay.
So the trick of it is, like I said, a lot of times what people want is something nice in their deployment zone in the middle, right, for good fields of fire, and they want shitty things on the edge.
Yeah.
But this deployment, like this way of deploying, prevents that, because if you want to put shitty things on the edge, you kind of got to start on your edge, which makes it kind of
Gotcha.
And
okay, finite amount of cards.
Yeah.
The predetermined way to
deploy. So you can also build kind of into your opponent's backline, right?
Okay.
Because it only takes like 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth card.
Oh, I see now. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the whole table. You just have to start on your edge, and you can go, well, now I'm going to go here, and suddenly, you decided to start in the corner because you wanted to put that shitty swamp well away from your stuff. Mm-hmm. Your opponent's dropping terrain in your deployment zone, and it's a river.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's wild, and it keeps things fresh. So I'm working on right now, porting it over into 30K.
Mm-hmm. So you need 24 cards if you want to do a regular 6x4.
Well, but here's the thing. Yeah. Obviously, you don't want,
or you can do more.
You don't want the whole table covered in cards, right? So
I mean, you still have blank cards, effectively.
Yeah, you'll still have blank cards, but you also don't want everything filled up, because that kind of takes away.
Yeah. So maybe go to like 2x2s.
Well, no, you can keep the 1x1, and you can say, okay, we're gonna, but maybe instead of 9 cards, you deal like 12 or 13 to get the numbers up to the amount of terrain that you'd want in a 40, 30K game. Mm-hmm. And then you go and build a table. And it's cool. I've only played the game like once or twice because somebody hasn't painted all of her tiny Germans. Wonder who that could be. Anyway, Jared's also failing me, so it's fine. But it seems like a really cool way for people to build unique tables every game, because you never know what your hand's going to be. You kind of got to guess at what the opponent's doing. Because okay, if there's 40 cards in this deck, I didn't get a single swamp in my hand. Shit. Jesse's probably got a bunch of swamps. Better put stuff all over my back line to protect myself.
So you're not just running through difficult terrain.
So I'm not stuck in swamps, but also now Jesse is putting terrain in the mid table, and who knows what that is, and we're going to find out. Or you can speed it up. You can speed it up a little bit if you wanted by, you draw the cards, but instead of putting them face down, you just put a piece of terrain in there.
Yeah,
just because I got it.
That being said, 32 millimeter terrain is going to be a little bit more difficult to keep track of as opposed to 6 millimeter, I imagine.
Well, I thought about that, and I don't think so. Because 30K terrain tends to boil down to 3 types of stuff. Difficult terrain, like craters, that's just difficult and it's a problem. Well, 4 types, I guess. Things like jungles and forests, which are difficult terrain and block line of sight, but are just sort of one story.
Technically, they don't block line of sight.
If you have a real jungle model, you would. But, you got to play
9th edition for that fun stuff.
We'll see. But then ruins and buildings, stuff you can kind of see through, and then big rocks that are impassable terrain.
Yeah.
And if you just make that the 4 different types of terrain, right? Because there's not a lot of specialist terrain, right?
No, and those would be fairly simple enough to...
Yeah. And you could also tailor it to what you happen to own, right? Because that was a big problem with the age.
That'd be the trick.
With the fantasy one, is that sometimes you'd be like, oh, well, it wants a ghost fence.
I ain't got no ghost fence.
Own a fucking ghost? This is a wizard's tower. I don't own a tower model.
So yeah, you'd have to take inventory of what you have and make cards up, which, not gonna lie, I got a lot of terrain.
And even if it's something, fun, though. Even if it's something like, hey man, I have exactly enough terrain for one table, and I gotta play with this terrain every game.
You now have a deck for your table.
Yeah, it'll now
just a predetermined deck.
Yeah, it'll be a predetermined deck. You're always kind of playing mind games with your opponent on what's going where and what am I doing. So it's not going to be the same perfectly mirrored table each time you play.
That's interesting. I have to try that out because, like I said, I got a lot of terrain. I got some of the special terrain they have called out in the books and stuff too. So
yeah, I'm going to try and port it over to 30K and Titanicus.
Titanicus would be awesome.
It's just area terrain. Does it block a Warhound? Does it block a Reaver? Does it block a Warlord? Bam. Four types of terrain. There you go. So it's infinitely simple to do. It adds a little kind of interest to the terrain building. Because really, like, everybody's like, oh, the terrain's the third army on the table. They're right. It is.
But there's never any good...
But there's never...
a good way to deploy that army without...
Yeah, it's just...
I really like this. That's really cool. I have to check that out.
Yeah, it's Age of Hannibal. It's delightful.
Neat.
And a fun rule set if, you ever want to move your historical wargaming from 30K into the ancient world.
Get some epic boys.
Yeah, get some epic.
I mean, Space Romans, you're practically there.
Well, you'd have to play Ultramarines, though, so, you give a little, you get a little.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm going to have to check that out.
Such are my epiphanies as I sit not playing a Horus Heresy game in too damn long.
Right. I guess thanks to the Age of Hannibal guys as well for thinking that one up.
Yeah. I forget what the guy's name is. He doesn't listen to this podcast anyway.
Well, credit them anyway. Thanks, Age of Hannibal.
Greg Wagman. That's who the author is.
Greg Wagman.
Or possibly Chalfant Conley, who is credited in the game design. Who knows? Maybe he's really the brains of the whole operation.
We'll thank them both.
Yeah. They're good dudes, presumably.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. Hopefully. We did no due diligence on these. So if they're monsters for whatever reason, like if they're just out here roasting cats on YouTube, like we don't know those guys.
Nope.
But if you know those guys and they're good dudes, tell them I say hi. I'm super excited to get somebody to paint tiny Germans. There was something else we were going to talk about with terrain.
I don't remember.
Oh, we were going to talk about the cheap stuff.
Yeah. Getting into terrain if you need good, cheap stuff.
Yeah. Because the GW stuff is amazing.
Beautiful, but...
Jesus.
You are practically... it is a third army on the table. And it shows
in
on the
price
wallet.
tag. Yep. Yeah. It's real rough. So what is a nerd to do? Luckily, you can get some cheap terrain that keeps life doable, right? Along with plenty of like third-party companies that do tons and tons and tons of terrain. Not the cardstock. What is the thing I'm thinking of? The wood.
MDF.
Yeah, MDF. Man, it's been a long day. I'm not even a beer in. I have no excuses.
You got some Death Ray Design stuff.
Yeah, Death Ray Designs is good.
They're local. Sort of local. U.S., East Coast, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they've got good stuff. So like for buildings and things, it's hard to scratch build like a good building if you're not into terrain.
Yeah.
Right.
Without it looking like a scratch built building.
Without it looking like a scratch built building. But
I still struggle with that. Even with freaking hills, I struggle.
I was about to say, but things like hills are easy.
Yeah.
Or like rock pillars, right? Everybody likes a good Badlands rock pillars.
Just hot glue them
up
together and just go to town with it on a knife.
Get some wood glue, go to like your local Lowe's, buy some pink foam and the 2x2 sheet.
Yep.
It's for like $5.
That's probably like $20 by now. I have no idea what
it was. It was 5 3 weeks ago. So I think that might have come back around.
All right.
Yeah, for a minute there, all construction was wildly expensive, but they've come back around
for the most part.
And then get a hot knife of some sort.
Yep.
I mean, you can just hack at it, but you will get it into everywhere, and it'll just look bad. And also, so, you do that. The trick is you just cut it roughly into the chunks you want, like for a pillar, maybe like 4 inches to a side, squares. Wood glue it on top of each other, stack a book on top of it, come back the next day, and just whatever hot knife you've got, just wax through it. Wear a mask, an N95 one. The fumes are bad. Well...
Do it outdoors if you can.
Yeah, do it outdoors. And that should really be the answer, because I say wear an N95. Now I'm like, I don't know if that actually covers
Yeah. Plus,
for foam smoke, because that's really just what it is. It's just plastic smoke in the air.
I mean, which is particles. Anyway, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not going to give that type of advice.
Technically, I would assume yes, but I don't know what particles. Fuck if I know.
If at the very worst, I use organic vapor masks or organic vapor rated masks.
Yeah, that's the word for it. Thank God we have.
That's what I use for super glue.
Yeah,
so, OV rated.
That's the spirit. OV rated. Yeah. That's the stuff. And then you can knock out some pillars. And then there is some spray paint that just came out for foam modeling.
That's right. You had a can of that last time I was at your place.
I had a can of it, and it is amazing.
It's so amazing. We are just stretching time until he gets it on his phone.
Until I remember the name of the thing. And now, of course, I'm not on Jesse's Wi-Fi, so it's going.
New upgraded Axe body wash.
Gotta get this.
Fucking YouTube ads. Nobody wear Axe body wash. I like how these are all like, oh, here's the new
terrain
spray paint foam, and literally none of them are saying what.
Well, while he's looking for that, I will say, if you are not craftily gifted, as I too am not craftily gifted. I'm a huge fan of. It's hard to find sometimes, but there's a series of terrain called Battlefield in a Box, which I've picked.
Yeah, those are great.
I've picked up plenty of items from there, and they all come pre-painted and very reasonable in price compared to other, like say GW stuff. And they usually have also very large pieces of items as well. And if you go to like a board game or a wargaming convention or stuff, you might be able to find some of this stuff in some of the shops and things. And I have a few pieces, and I absolutely love them. Like I said, you can get some decent, nice, huge craters, pre-built, pre-painted. They're like the what do they call them? What's the GW ones? The Earth Shaker cannon quake things. Yeah, Battlefield in Box has effectively the exact same thing for
Gothic Craters.
Yeah, Gothic Craters for like $25, and they're massive. They're made of resin. They're pre-painted, and you can't beat that. I said I'm a huge fan of those.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's the bummer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much that you spend money on terrain when you could be spending money on models, because like nobody really enjoys doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can have other 500 points onto my army instead of this random house.
Yeah. That being said, a lot of people also like terrain.
A lot of people super love terrain. I really get into it for Necromunda.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love building Necromunda terrain. Also, it's a pain in the ass to paint terrain, right? I could be painting my army.
It can be. But luckily, I just hit it with a huge dry brush for the most part and add a few details here and there. But yeah, at the same time,
the box stuff, you don't worry about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise, guys, we're not important enough to get money from people. Like we get money from our Patreons. That is it.
Yeah.
So when we like a thing, it's just because we like a thing.
And also with building terrain stuff, check out the Terrain Tutor on YouTube. We had him on like a year and a half ago. He's a really, really awesome dude over in the UK. Give his channel a check out. He also has a book out, which has some really cool pointers and stuff. I don't know if it's in a regular print or not, because I got mine from his Kickstarter. But definitely worth a check.
Yeah, or the old GW How to Make Wargaming Terrain.
Like, I have that book. I think you got me that book at some point.
Yeah, and I was going to bring my copies because they came out with two, a red one from like the early 90s and then a kind of like updated 2003, 2004 one. Some of the things are a little dated. Like here's my styrofoam ball that I put toothpicks in and painted it. And it's an alien plant. But some of them like super hold up. Yeah. Especially some of the interesting ways they make buildings, if you really want to do that yourself.
It's really fun to see how far we've come.
Oh, it's wild. It's like thumbing through, like, especially that 90s one, man. If I could take my paints and teleport myself back to 1993, I would win so many golden demons. You're like,
throwing a wash on it.
What is this? I washed it. The base isn't goblin green. Mind blown. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. No, but I remember the foam.
Yeah.
The spray paint. And by remember, I mean I found it on the internet. So Army Painter has this stuff called Game Master Terrain Primer.
Okay.
It's black magic. I bought a can of it. It's a little expensive. It's
all the good stuff is.
It's one of those. It's not quite a half can. It's like
it was a bit. It was like almost a little on the smaller side.
3/5 can, something like that, and it's $12. So it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the rate for GW.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like.
But if you're used to like the $3 Rust-Oleum, this is not that. Yeah. However, you can spray it directly onto every surface I've tried, like the actual pink foam.
Yeah.
Straight up styrofoam, like
does not melt
the bubbly stuff doesn't melt it at all. Good coverage, good coats. Comes in like 5 or 6 different colors, so you can get like, and it's all made specifically for terrain, right? Mm-hmm. So the colors are too. So you get like the green is like a dark woodland green, or it's got like a tan, or there's one that's like dungeon, which is what I've got. Dungeon and subterranean, which is like
colors to actually match decent terrain.
Match the foundation color for terrain,
Very
right?
Cool.
It's a great like not quite black, not quite brown, kind of gray.
Yeah.
And I did that for all my rock terrain.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that styrofoam stuff that I was saying. I just, made a stack, cut some stuff out, primed it, gave it a couple dry brushes. It was done, and it was amazing.
Nice. Another quick because I think Will talked about this before. A good way to get like a good serious amount of base paint for terrain and stuff is to get a sample of it.
Yeah. Any
local
paint store, hardware store.
Store. Get like yourself like a sample thing, which is like, I don't know, like
$2.
Yeah. And it'd be like 500 grams, 1,000 grams worth of paint and pretty damn close.
And it's Skaven Blight Dinge.
It's close enough for terrain.
Yeah. It is a little hard sometimes, especially if you're using that as your base coat.
Yeah.
If you're doing it on a plastic, like model plastic.
Be sure to find it.
But it's terrain. It's terrain, so you're really not, right?
You also just prime it.
Yeah, prime it first. But for stuff like foam or, the popsicle stick fort you built, which sounds real cheap, but I've made some nice ones in my time. Like it's good plank size for 28 millimeter, actually.
Yeah. Go to a hardware store, find a color you like, or bring in a swath of the paint that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Get it color matched.
Yeah. I mean, and Will had a great idea. You just match it to like a base tone GW color and off you go.
Yeah. It won't be exact, but it will be damn close enough for you to.
It'll be.
And you might find a cool color in their actual selection too.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other things I like doing is you can find texture paint. So if you're making, I know most people, including myself, are on like the mats, right? The neoprene mats. But if you're going old school and actually making like board table chunks, you can get textured spray paint.
Yeah. Yep.
To give it just that little bit of spackle instead of the old version of like, now you've made your foam, apply Elmer's glue and dust it lightly with sand. Wait 6 hours and put on a second. No, fuck that. Just spray paint. Not straight over the foam because you'll just melt it into a million pieces or one tiny goopy piece. But, it gets the job done real quick. It's delightful.
I also found if you just mix a whole bunch of sand and glue together, if you have like an industrial size thing of glue, dump it in sand and just make a mix. And if you're making like a large swath of something.
Yeah, I've also done the same thing, but with paint. Just like dump sand straight into paint. Yep. Of course,
quick and dirty astrogranite real quick.
Yeah. Of course, at the time I was living in LA, so I just walked down to the beach, strained out the heroin needles and was right to it. What? It was Santa Monica. Yeah. Of course you had to strain out the heroin needles.
Yeah. But, if you guys have any good ideas out there too, feel free to leave a comment on this, on our Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram, wherever. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at RR30K Podcast. If you got more stuff to talk about, don't get me wrong. That was a good segue into.
It was a good segue.
Yeah. Until I just completely.
And now you ruined it. It's all right. The editing guy will take this out in post.
Yep. Yeah. Facebook and Twitter at RR30K Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at RR30K. You can check out our website, RR30K.com, our unofficial Horus Heresy website, where you'll find links to all our episodes and the Battlefleet Heresy Compendium, which is Austin Stevens' homebrewed shenanigans of playing Battlefleet Gothic set in the Age of Darkness.
It's a lot of fun. Playing a game tomorrow, actually.
Oh, even better. Nice. You can also, we also have the Old World podcast.
Yep.
Perils and Portents. Sorry. You can tell I don't edit that one, so I don't remember. Sorry, Jesus. Pat. I apologize.
Jesus.
Yep. And check out Heresy Grad School, Heresy Book Club. Lost Transmissions is what Austin and Steven did for Battlefleet Gothic, Battlefleet Heresy. So if you're curious and
we should be starting to
listen to it
soon.
Yeah. It's been too long.
It real has. And we made so many promises and we've kept one of them.
Yeah. Sometimes we have a bad time following through, but we try to make it every goddamn week. So
it's in the middle of a pandemic, boys and girls.
And work is not slowed down for any stretch of the imagination.
My work is only sped up.
Yep. Past 3 months, every week has been the busiest week ever for me in my whole career. So it's been great.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Jesse.
Yeah. But again, this podcast is a lot of fun to make, and it's cool to see people enjoy it. And if you enjoy this podcast and would like to support it financially to pay for server costs, website hosting costs, and the like, go over to patreon.com/RR30K. That's where our Patreon is.
Yeah. And I can't stress enough how much none of us actually make money on this. Your money goes to making it better to listen to, because Jesse's been able to get mics that look like we're actually professionals.
Midway through the pandemic.
Yeah.
You might have noticed that, yes, even though we were away from each other, we actually sound a lot better. That's because I got to pay for some premium VoIP website.
Yeah.
Clean feed. Check it out.
Yeah. Or fun stuff that goes back to Patreons, or when we run events, we our swag fund, which we started up and then only had the opportunity to run one event. And so now the swag fund has just been building.
Yeah.
But we promise we'll have cool stuff.
Fuck, what was I going to say? Son of a bitch.
I have no idea. You were thinking of other fun stuff.
Yeah.
Other fun stuff that we've gotten recently.
This is
your kick-ass soundboard. He's got a legitimate soundboard in here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know. He looks like he's at a discotheque in Europe circa 2019.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got decent podcast equipment thanks to you guys. In case you haven't noticed, we've had this for a little bit of while now, but I guess now it is a formal thank you guys.
Yes. It is a formal thank you.
If being able to use it again since the pandemic has been really nice.
It has been. And if you don't believe us, go listen to our very first episode.
Then come back.
And it's not just because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have anything to do anything.
No, it was both.
We
didn't have anything to work with, and we didn't know what we were doing.
It's true. So thank you all for that. Yeah. It's been fun. It will continue to be fun.
We'll probably do. I would like to get back into maybe some live shows where our patrons can come in and do some chat.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I think I was only in one of them if we've done more than one.
We've only done one.
We've only done one.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
we're going to work on that.
It was a ton of fun. Yeah.
This holiday season, because it always slows down during the holidays.
Maybe we'll have one for Gulliman Day.
Oh, a live Gulliman Day episode.
Live Gulliman Day episode.
All right, we're going to see if we can make that happen.
Yeah. Nope, we promised nothing.
Keep your ears open and eyes on the Facebook or Twitter or wherever. God, that was a completely mangled post-show note thing. So anyway, that being said, thanks again to our patrons, starting with our Legion Praetors, Alex Self, Chaplanisar, Chris Mack, Garner.Tree of Woe, Joe from Music City Heresy, Luke Rizzuto, Matthew Boyce, Mr. Baldwick, Nicholas Quenga, Sar Luther, Taco Tuesday or Bus 22, Rock and Roll McDonald's, and What's Ligma? Legion Centurions, Aaron Maynard, Andrew N., Angry Boy, Dave Jones, Duncan, Ed, John Christensen, M. Tanzer, Gorecrow, Queen Corswain, Scott LeMay, and the original Applesauce. And finally, our Legion Sergeants, Agrippina, Emily O'Hare, Garrett Lowe, Mr. Sear, Nick Gillen, The Zoe, and what do I call myself? Once again, thank you all so much for your support. We really appreciate it, and it just motivates us to keep on doing this. If you like the show, spread the word. Tell 2 of your friends.
Yes.
It's what one podcast I was listening to said, tell 2 of your friends. I said, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, they get millions of listeners, but they still tell you to talk to 2 friends.
Yeah, that does give a much wider net than...
Then they got 3 million listeners.
Yeah. We'll have like 30 if everyone tells 2 of their friends.
But you know what? Doesn't matter because this is fun.
It is. We do have a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. And 50 years from now...
When my grandkids will say, "What did you do in the great pandemic of the 20s?" I'll say, "Oh, fuck, I swear to God, we had the podcast before."
But we're looking to new and exciting things, and we will be here when 2.0 drops.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna
podcast the hell out of it.
Yeah. Get it all right here on the Remembrancers Retreat.
Yeah.
An unofficial 30K Horus Heresy podcast.
And specialist games.
Unofficial for that too. Yeah. GW doesn't let us do any of that.
No.
Yeah.
We would. But we don't.
Thanks again. Bye for now. Keep those dice rolling.